Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And as par for the course for this beloved program, another phenomenal hour of Lucha Underground tonight. And I'll tell you something about this episode. The champion really stood out. This was really a Mil Muertes-centric episode in my mind. And we got two compelling matches, some more interesting vignettes that kind of widen the narrative of certain angles going on. Just another very productive hour. There's no wasted motion with this show. And tonight, I think what this show really accomplished was really reestablishing the champion. Ashton, what did you think of this?
You know, you say it was a Mil Muertes-centric episode, and I do agree with that, but I also think it was a very in-ring-centric episode. We got literally a 20-plus minute main event. We had a really fun match that happened that got kind of destroyed and ended without any kind of a decisive winner before that. And even our first match of the night went longer than I expected it to. It was a solid, I would say 10 to 12-minute match. And even a lot of the sort of cinematic style videos that Lucha Underground is so great with, that we got 3 or 4 of those tonight, and at least 2 of them were in the temple. So we got a lot of more sort of in the temple, in the ring centric stuff tonight. Whereas a lot of the other times we'll get Cueto and Black Lotus and that whole thing, or we'll get different kind of vignettes to show who's coming or why someone's cool, or giving backstory on a character or something like that. We didn't get really anything like that tonight, other than the one El Dragon Azteca Jr., Rey Mysterio Jr. segment that we got that was kind of a bleed in from a famous V vignette.
Yes, and I like that technique. I thought that was very cool. But we'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that later. For now, let's start with our opening segment, Heat of the Night. And still living in the Arctic, still got satellite. We got a popcorn machine now, so it just updates by the week with every new phenomenal episode. I think Ashton's probably working on getting us this HD down here, just the best quality. And yeah, it's just been a really good time. So no Heats of the Night for me. What about you, brother?
Well, I mean, technically we do have HD because we're watching everything in 720p, but I'm working on getting that 4K action going on, brother.
Yeah, there you go, brother. There you go. So I'm guessing you don't have any Heats of the Night either then.
I don't have any full-blown Heats of the Night, but if I had to complain about anything, it's that live reacting, as fun as it is mildly inconvenient because we don't get to hear everything that's said.
Yeah, so if anything, we're the nitpick. That's how great this show is, people, that we have to take it within ourselves to find complaints, and that's quite psychologically traumatizing for this guy. So, with that said, though, let's get right into our Lucha Underground review, and as this show so often does, it sets the tone immediately with a cinematic. Catrina and Mil Muertes, Ashton.
Yeah, and this cinematic was so good and so dark, and we got our first few full sentences from Mil, because even when he did talk in season 1, it was almost like caveman speak. He didn't say a full fully thought out sentence. He just said, "I need nothing," and that was it. But in this, he said, he was speaking in full sentences. He was asking for Puma and Pentagon and Catrina, and he said that while he was choking Catrina and lifting her up in the air, and Catrina just grabs his arm, says no, and then teleports away.
Yeah. This relationship, I was even saying in live reactions, this relationship to me, and I think you've said the same, in season 1, we thought we had a clear idea of it, Muertes is the monster, Catrina's kind of the mistress, and they, kind of together in a somewhat, romantic sense. Yeah. But then that quickly dissipated, I think, later on, especially with, Mil's revival. And then season 2, I think that relationship's been maintained, but I always feel like there's a kind of power struggle going on at times. That's the second time, at least that I can remember seeing, Muertes full-on throttling Catrina by the throat and kind of overpowering her. But Catrina, though, remains calm, just like the first time he did it. So either she's really... Yeah.
I think it's so weird because I'm getting more, rather than that these two have had like a relationship or something, I'm getting much more of like a master versus slave relationship here. Like Mill, it almost seems like the reason that he's so destructive and miserable is because of Catrina. And like, I don't feel like he would be that way just because like, oh, well, he was in this earthquake, so it changed him. I think that he is an unwilling slave to Catrina. She is using him, and he wants out of the relationship, but she has something on him that he can't get out of.
See, I almost have to wonder, because she even referred to him like by his name. I remember
Pasquale,
you reacting.
Yeah,
Pasquale Mendoza. And I have to wonder if when he emerged from the rubble, because Katrina's all like, oh, I found him.
Well, and that's another thing, too. We kind of got a reaffirmation here that she is some kind of immortal or ages significantly slower than everyone else, because she did really reestablish here that she was the one that found him in that rubble. She saved his life when he was just a little boy. But if she saved his life when he was just a little boy, how old was she when he was a little boy?
Exactly.
Because right now, she's a minimum of 10 years younger than him, appearance-wise. So you really have to wonder what Catrina is.
Exactly. And really, here's another thing. I mean, how does she keep that youthful appearance? You know, is the lick of death central to that? Like, when she takes away a little bit of that essence, does she put a little bit of time on her own clock, so to speak? And my thing is, as far as bringing him out of the rubble when he was a boy, I mean, did she really prey on him emotionally? You know, just being like, well, I'm the only family you have now.
You know what it almost reminds me of?
What's that?
It reminds me of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. storyline from season 1. Mill is like, oh wow, I forgot his name. The guy played by Brett Dalton. The bad guy. The bad guy that is now like inhabited by the demon thing from the other planet.
Oh, God.
I can't believe I forget his name. But it was his relationship with John Garrett.
Right.
Where like he saved his life, and he felt like he owed him his life because of the way that he kind of psychologically messed with him. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Like, she saved Mill's life, and she got inside his head and convinced him that like he owes his life to her, and therefore he needs to basically do whatever she says, whenever she says it. Like, he basically has become her slave because of him feeling like he owes his life to her. And it's like he's kind of resistant to that now, because he feels like he wants to have his own sort of free will, but she still has him by the balls in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah, I mean, definitely she's in complete control, and you know that because, I mean, again, just remains perfectly calm when throttled by the throat and uses that teleport ability, which, notice, last time he did it, she didn't use that ability. Right. You know, she just, I think, just kind of let her down or whatever.
Grant Ward!
That's what it was.
Oh, my God.
I knew that was going to bother both of us, and you were going to look it up while I had the ball. So, yeah,
how sad is it, though, that I remember the name of the actor rather than the name of the character? Why does Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have to take so many months off at a time? It's almost as bad as Lucha Underground in that sense.
Yeah, really. So perfect parallel all around, I guess. But yeah, really compelling opening cinematic. I loved it. And you're going to be hearing me say this a lot in the review, the atmosphere they set up for it, I thought was perfect for the characters we were dealing with. Again, immediately sets a tone, immediately transports you to that other place. I freaking loved it.
Yeah, this was great. The relationship between these two, I know that, again, this is going to be a horrible comparison to make, but it almost reminds me of when a really, really kind of seasoned dog owner gets a new dog and the dog tries to turn on him. They always, like, anytime you see that kind of situation, the experienced dog owner will kind of intimidate the dog without hurting it. And that's what I feel like Catrina's doing. Like, Mill has tried to turn on her twice now that we've seen. And rather than panicking and freaking out, she just kind of plays along. She lets him get it out of his system. And then I'm assuming there was some kind of psychological thing that she did to kind of make him realize how dumb of a decision that was later on that we didn't see.
I mean, she just said, from what I saw, she just said no, and then she teleported out, and then Muertes let out a scream.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just pretty much denying him and you know, putting him in the corner more or less, forcing him in the corner.
Exactly.
Like, no.
Like,
no,
basically
go.
letting him know that, like, yeah, you can grab me by the throat, but it's not actually going to accomplish anything because I'm better than you.
Exactly. I mean, Pentagon tried breaking my arm, for God's sakes, and I teleported out. You really think you've got something on me?
Yeah.
Remember your place. And she leaves him there to stew in his anger.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I cannot freaking wait for the match that we get when she steps in the ring, and I'm hoping it'll be Ivelisse.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, you know, I believe it was in our Luchador Spotlight about Ivelisse. I think that's going to be a match at Ultima Lucha 2. Yeah. I feel it, because especially the way it's going with Catrina in this authority position.
You know what, though, dude? I'm beginning to think maybe we'll get Black Lotus versus Catrina.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, because neither one of them have been in the ring yet, but we do know that they're both trained wrestlers. And Black Lotus, like, if we get like a full-on Cueto's army versus Catrina's army war, Black Lotus would be basically the counterpart to Catrina in that setup.
Yeah, she would be.
At least the natural counterpart, because technically if you want to talk about like true counterparts, it would be Cueto, but he's not a trained wrestler. So Lotus would make a lot more sense.
Would be interesting to see, though, Cueto and Catrina, since they've really not shied from the whole intergender aspect.
She would destroy him, and then he would throw sand in her eyes for the win.
Yeah, that's so Cueto.
Pocket
I won using violence!
Yeah, dude, but like that's what I'm saying though, is that Catrina has been built up so incredibly well. And it's funny because the one word that I will use for her that I've used so often with Stephanie McMahon on WWE, she feels untouchable. But the difference is I believe in Lucha Underground, and I'm convinced that they're going to give us a comeuppance for Catrina at some point, whether it's this season or next. I have enough faith in Lucha Underground to give us that. So I don't need to even question it like I do with WWE, with Stephanie McMahon constantly going unchecked, because they've established that she doesn't get comeuppances ever.
Oh, certainly. Well, I mean, dude, all you'd have to do, and I know, like you said, comeuppance, so that's a different thing, but just to kind of, you know, build upon that fact, we know that Catrina, she does take damage. I mean, even in the season opener.
She gets speared, and
she got speared. Yeah, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So as far as an actual comeuppance goes, certainly, that is not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, I think quite the contrary. That is totally within the realm of possibility. In fact, I'd go as far as to say inevitability, because this isn't WWE. They do treat this like television, and I think you realize in television, real television, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like you were saying earlier, every villain's got to get checked. Every villain's got to get that comeuppance.
Either checked or redeemed, one of the two.
Exactly, you know, and
I highly doubt Catrina is going to be redeemed.
Exactly, and I mean, again, just using that parallel one last time, you think about Grant Ward and Agent Coulson, you know, Grant Ward got killed by Coulson, you know, that was that whole thing.
But now Ward's back and stronger than ever, and I apologize for spoilers, people, but if you're not caught up, it's not our fault. This show's been out for months now.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, I enjoyed this. Great stuff.
Yeah, this was great. Up next, we had a match, our first match of the night, Sexy Star versus Cobra Moon. Freaking love Cobra Moon, and this was a solid match. We had a lot of shenanigans going on though, because we did have the Mac come out to watch the match, and I guess he was sort of watching over Sexy Star, but he didn't really do much to help her, because Marty the Moth Martinez showed up in the stands, distracted Sexy Star, and allowed Cobra Moon to get the win via the Cobra Sleeper.
Yes. Still digging Cobra Moon immensely. I love the look, and I love what she does, you know, in ring. I enjoyed this match, you know, solid opener. In fact, it's funny because one line I had in live reaction, that's why I kind of joked about Dario Cueto and Catrina in the preceding segment that we just got done discussing. Lucha Underground has established intergender matches as more the norm than an actual, like, luchadora versus luchadora, you know, match.
Right.
You know, just two women going at it.
Yeah.
Because this is only the second purely women's match that we've gotten in Lucha Underground, the first being Ivelisse versus Sexy Star. Now we get Cobra Moon versus Sexy Star, and it makes sense for Cobra Moon to go over. First of all, she's the fresher act, so I think you really want to establish her. I mean, I know Lucha Underground, a lot of times they have the talents lose their debuts, but clearly I think they have some kind of game plan for Cobra Moon, which I'm excited for. And second of all, I mean, like we kind of talked about, you know, Sexy Star was in captivity all that time. So whether you want to attribute it to ring rust and, just go textbook, or you want to get a little bit deeper than that and say, oh, well, psychological scarring, potentially like mental distractions and emotional distractions, it was enough for Cobra Moon to capitalize. And I like the idea now that Mac has got Sexy Star's back. They're two friends. I mean, whatever the Mac saw, he's been pulled into this now too.
Yep.
And now they're in this together. And Marty the Moth just being in the stands and distracting Sexy, like that's enough of a trigger for Sexy to divert her attention and for Cobra Moon to capitalize. So I love it, man. I'm really enjoying this story. I think I even tweeted like 2 or 3 weeks ago what I love about the whole Marty and his sister, and really just the way that Lucha Underground does horror in general. It leaves so much to the imagination, and I love that they trust in the imagination so much, whether it's with Matanza or now Marty's sister, because I think that is always the best. Like, if this is what getting worked feels like, it feels pretty damn good, because you're just anticipating, when is that next big revelation going to come? When is this monstrosity going to show herself in Marty's sister? I'm really excited.
Yes, dude. Marty's sister and Matanza are the two big mysteries right now. And, well, I mean, the bigger, more overarching mystery is, of course, these Aztec gods that are coming back in human form.
Yeah, and
we already know one of them. We already know one of them is Matanza, but it's worth trying to figure out who the other ones are. I mean, we're assuming there are 7 of them, given that's many tribes there are.
Right. I just love, that Lucha Underground, the writing and everything, they have all their pieces in place perfectly, because they say, well, we know that she's really scared of Marty's sister, but Marty, he still has that association, that relationship, so even if we send him out, that's going to scare Sexy Star enough, that's going to take her out of the game enough for, Cobra Moon to capitalize, and so we can hold back on Marty's sister, and I love that they're just teasing us with this, dude. I love that they're not going to satisfy our curiosity, because
I was hoping we would see Marty's sister this week. I really was, but I think what is going to end up happening is we're probably going to get a tag match. It's going to end up being Mac and Sexy versus Marty and his sister,
which will be an awesome match. And I love that the Mac, he found his way in this storyline, and I love that his presence, if you think about Ashton, at least, in the way it was written, I mean, was kind of an accident, because he just happened to run into Sexy Star when she was making her escape. So now the Mac has been pulled into something he can't even begin to understand. So I think that helps with his sympathy, because he's just thinking, oh, well, it's Marty. I'll go rough him up a bit. The guy's a creep. But then you saw his eyes when he saw Marty's sister. That is something else. So really cool elements at play here.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we want to move on, we can talk about the big vignette that we got tonight. That was literally the only thing that we got that was outside of the temple. Famous B had another one of these awesome, terribly, overused, bad used car salesman commercials. It's amazing. Except this time he's beating up on random generic luchadors.
Yes, he punched one in the face. He's still plugging the phone number 423 get fame, which I've talked to Famous B on Twitter. Apparently he's been doing very well, getting lots of messages on that number. I'm so happy he's getting this angle. And I'll be honest, I'll tell everybody, our listeners, exactly what I've said on Twitter. Despite like all the darkness and like the mythos and everything, and I'm really into the mythology, this has got to be one of my favorite angles going, because it's Famous B. He's not like this main event guy. I'm just wondering what the end game is. Like, is it going to be a faction? Is he going to try his hand at being a manager? Is he going to find 2 people that he can get fame alongside with, and we've got a trios team? I'm just really curious, but I love the setup of these. And can I mention, too, because I even said I'd be saying this a lot tonight, I love the atmosphere of these, because it's such a stark contrast from the temple. The temple's very dark and gloomy, and you almost feel like there's something kind of over your shoulder. There's always just something kind of hovering over everybody. But here, these are bright, they're colorful. You can almost say they're like borderline obnoxious, with just like everything coming at you. But I love it. Like, it's just such a stark contrast that this shows that Lucha Underground can do anything. They don't really have necessarily a defined aesthetic, because they can play with all sorts of mediums and atmospheres. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. I love how outside of the box Lucha Underground is willing to get, because we've gotten so used to this gritty, like almost like Sin City Kill Bill kind of grungy underground style, and now we get this bright, almost like old box bunny ears TV style vignette, and it takes place outside during the daytime, and he's cutting this promo and he's all uppity and cheerful and talking about how he can make you famous and that kind of stuff. And I love the contrast, and I love how different it feels, not only in contrast as far as atmosphere goes, but as far as the way that Famous B is going about getting himself recognized feels different than anything else we've seen.
And can I just say, too, like, again, it's the little things, and it may not even be worth noting, but I just love that it's a real number. You know, I love that they're just so committed that you can call the number, you know? Like, I'm just loving everything about this, and I'm so... Like, are the fans calling? Are they actually going to use legitimate messages? I mean, we saw in that Believers Backlash match, you know, those were legitimate fans that signed waivers and got to participate. Are the fans indirectly going to be able to participate in this as well? Is there going to be... Are we going to hear some fans' voices in a future vignette or something? Or,
that'd be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be so freaking cool. So I don't know what the end game is with anybody actually calling in, if that's even going to be a factor. But again, like, every conversation we have about Lucha Underground with any topic, you know, within the universe, there's always possibility, because the writing makes it so that possibility is, well, possible. So, yeah, really big fan of this. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, dude, this was crazy good. But the great thing, what made it even better, was that we saw that this vignette was something that we weren't the only ones watching. The audience, the crowd, wasn't the only people. We weren't the only people that were watching this vignette, because as it turns out, El Dragon Azteca Jr. was also watching it on his TV, wherever Rey Mysterio has the two of them kind of held up. And Mysterio turned the TV off, and we kind of smoothly transitioned using that into a Mysterio Dragon Azteca vignette, where these guys are sparring more, and Rey's telling Azteca Jr. that they need to get ready he needs to get ready to meet his destiny.
I love how... See, I've never even seen anything like this. They use a vignette.
Well, not in wrestling, we haven't, that's vignette. For sure.
Yeah, in wrestling, we certainly haven't. They used a vignette to like, transition into another vignette.
Yeah.
Like, that was great. Because apparently, like, El Dragon Azteca even said, hey, I was watching that, and Rey just kicks him in the chest. Like, you know, that is so good, because it shows, El Dragon Azteca... It really does, like, every little thing that he says, like, whether it's him, like, getting angry, like, oh, we're getting vengeance, or, hey, I was watching that, it clearly illustrates the student-teacher relationship with El Dragon Azteca Jr. being the student, and you see that, like, he still has a long way to go. The same way with Black Lotus and El Dragon Azteca. Last season, you established that dynamic because Black Lotus was always so impatient. You know, she always wanted to attack. She always wanted to just go after Matanza. But El Dragon Azteca knew, hey, you're not ready. Same thing here. El Dragon Azteca Jr., now he's the one that he just wants to go. He just wants to do his own thing, go by his own code. But Rey's like, no, that's not how we do it. You have to be ready for this. You have to get your head in the game. You have to be prepared for what's coming. So I'm really enjoying these, and I'm enjoying the relationship, you know, as we learn more about it, between El Dragon Azteca Jr. and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is so good.
Yeah, man, this is next
level honestly,
stuff.
The only thing that disappointed me about this is that we didn't get even more backstory about the Cuetos and the ancient Aztec kind of mythos. I think that would have been really cool, but even still, the fact that we didn't almost tells me that we're that much closer to seeing these guys in the temple again.
Oh, yeah, and dude, you know what? I gotta say, I applaud this, because the revelation we got last week, because I believe it was just last week, about the mother dying at the hands of Matanza, and then of course we already know about the father. Like, I'm glad they gave a week to breathe, because here's the thing, that's a big revelation. Like, that's a bombshell they dropped. So
well,
then
it's
they
just
say,
backstory. Okay. It's the Cuetos getting backstory, which we really, up until that point, we hadn't gotten.
Well, I mean, that's certainly true. It's the Cuetos getting backstory, but it's grim backstory. That's the thing. So
right.
I actually like that they pulled back and they said, okay, we gave them that big piece of backstory. Yeah. You understand the psychology a bit more of the Cuetos. Let's rein it in for this week. Let's focus again on Rey and El Dragon Azteca, and let's not even make mention of the Cueto. Let's just focus on the training, because I think I even tweeted today, you know, Dario Cueto, he will be back in the temple, but he's bringing war with him. And like everything else they do,
what if his return is Aztec Warfare?
You know what? That could be.
Because he just said he's bringing war with him. Aztec Warfare is his invention, and now Catrina's stealing it. They said that Catrina and Mills sent out invitations for it Dude, what if they return at Aztec Warfare?
You know what? Because didn't he even say on that little voice message video that we watched, didn't he even use the word war, or am I just
Yes, he
imposing that
did.
word? He did. Yeah, I'm thinking,
Explicitly.
yeah, Aztec Warfare's gotta be. You want to call it right now? Because I'll call it right now. I think he's returning Aztec Warfare. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That will be huge.
Dude,
That will be
and also,
freaking
I
huge.
wonder if Rey and El Dragon Azteca are going to be back in time for Aztec Warfare 2.
That's a good question. And
Well,
hey,
I shouldn't say back, I should say debuting, because we haven't seen either one of them in the ring yet, in Lucha Underground.
I mean, well, let me ask you. I mean, we're already having this discussion. You know how you and I do Lucha Underground discussions. We go all the way, so we might as well go all the way. Do you think that Matanza is going to enter Aztec Warfare if they return Aztec Warfare? Or do you think he's going to return in the form of a cinematic?
You know, it's funny because when did they announce Aztec Warfare? They didn't even announce Aztec Warfare until later on in the night, but screw it. We're talking about it now. We might as well. It is for the #1 contendership rather than for the title, what we were kind of hoping would happen. But if I had to guess, I'm going to say that Aztec Warfare is going to happen, and then immediately after it's over, the winner is going to have to fight for the title against Mill immediately. And I think we might see Matanza either right before or right after that match.
Okay, but you think we'll physically see Matanza like in the ring, just full appearance?
I think when Cueto comes back, he's not going to make any bones about it. He wants his temple back, and he knows that the only way to get it back is to get the title back into his own party, into his own camp, and he's going to use Matanza immediately to take on Mill. Or whoever has the title if Mill doesn't.
Yeah, you and I agree there that it's going to be Matanza versus Mill, or whoever has the championship. We'll put that qualifier there because with Lucha Underground, you have to. It's an imperative.
Yeah. I think that's going to be the bombshell, though. I think Matanza is going to... I don't know if it's going to be on the... I really do, though. The more I think about it, the more I think it is going to be on the Aztec Warfare episode, because really, whether he is a member of the Aztec Warfare match, or if he ends up, attacking Mill after Mill shows up and defends his title against the winner of the Aztec Warfare match, I think that that's all going to happen on the same episode anyway. So yeah, I do think Matanza is going to be on that episode. 3 weeks, brother.
Yeah, and I was even going to say this would be categorized as weaker reasoning than what you and I have been discussing, but you're talking that's 3 weeks away. Yeah. You think with something like that, 3 weeks, already announcing it tonight, that something really big besides the matchup is set to happen, I think.
I almost wonder if they're going to have maybe like a Rey Mysterio win Aztec Warfare, and then just to kind of establish that even though he was this like super over babyface underdog in WWE, that he's still he's still no match for Mil freaking Muertes. And then after Muertes beats Rey, they bring in Matanza.
Yeah, that would be an excellent debut. You have all the focus on Rey, so then I think you even forget in that moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be very curious now because before I'm just like, oh, cool, Aztec Warfare. But knowing that it's in 3 weeks, a lot can happen in 3 weeks. And that Cueto has been promising war and just the language, warfare, war, all that stuff has been used a lot. Something's going to go down. A bomb's going to drop. And I think it's going to level everybody and everything in that temple. Wow. I'm excited now. I mean, I was excited before, but goddamn, what are we going to get in 3 weeks?
War, that's what.
Yeah, war. That's what indeed. So yeah, Rey and El Dragon Azteca Jr., they were training tonight in this segment. You better train as hard as you can, because 3 weeks, if we're right, and that's a very big if with Lucha Underground, but if we are, holy shit, no amount of training may be enough.
Oh my god. They're training for Mil Muertes. They don't know about Matanza. Well, they know about him, but they don't know that he's coming.
Exactly. I'd say I'm sorry for you guys, but I'm not, because I'm going to revel in whatever gets unleashed, so bring it on, baby. It's going to be amazing.
Sorry, not sorry.
Exactly.
Freaking Garrison. All right, guys, so let's move on. We get a quick promo vignette cinematic thing from King Cuerno, where he's just sitting in a chair with all of these random animal heads mounted on the wall behind him, and he talks about how he's going to win the ladder match. And by climbing that ladder, he'll become a god with that victory.
Love it. Didn't really say too much, and he didn't need to. And again, again, they get the atmosphere absolutely right with a vignette like this. I mean, him just sitting surrounded by those trophies, goosebumps. I freaking loved it. And yeah, I love too. Tonight, I'm no longer just a hunter, I become a god. Perfect, because you're the gift of the gods champion. You know, that play on language. I'm a sucker for that stuff.
Well,
Just
and
all
Cueto
around.
did say when he was really hyping up all the medallions that whoever collects the 7 of these will be basically given the ability of God.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
you'll become a god. You'll be given the gift of the gods. Literally, like if you even literally just look at the name of the title, that's what it is.
right. This was great stuff. Again, short, sweet, and to the point. I think just the atmosphere spoke volumes. I thoroughly enjoyed
I almost have to
this.
wonder if Fenix is one of the Aztec gods in human form.
Well, given the punishment he took tonight, I think
That's what I'm
the
saying,
answer
though, because he,
substantiated.
like, I mean, you would think, first of all, he won the gift of the gods first, which, I mean, being able to sort of gather up all of that energy and the skill that it would require and even the luck that it would require in order to win that title with all the competition he had to face, and not to mention the fact that he did it no more than like 2 months after being powerbombed through a building, and now he only lost the title to Cuerno by a freaking pile driver, which is actually a banned move in Lucha Libre. And he's beaten Cuerno. He's beaten Cuerno both the times he's faced him since then, including now tonight, which we'll get to later on, winning back the Gift of the Gods title. So yeah, I really do have him. Plus, there's this whole mythos, like he cannot be killed because he rises from the ashes every time.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Oh my god, I love this show so freaking much. It really is just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with wrestling. That's what it is.
Yeah, just like any kind of TV show in that vein that you can think of, just infused with pro wrestling, and it's the perfect balance. It's just a wonderful marriage between
That's
these
how I've
two
been
things.
describing it for the last few months. It's Marvel, but the fight scenes take place in front of a live crowd in a wrestling ring. That's all it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Great stuff.
And obviously it's not quite as hokey as Marvel can get every now and then, because I know Marvel likes to like kind of drift towards comedy. So maybe that's not the best comparison, but that's the idea. It's basically a comic book come to life.
Yeah, it really is, dude. It's crazy.
So much. Up next, we had our second match of the night, Pentagon Jr. versus Prince Puma. And this match was insane. These guys were killing each other. The one spot that stands out most to me, and I know that Pentagon's done it to other people, but it just stands out more to me in this match because of the context of it. Puma goes for a handspring, and Pentagon Jr. drop kicks his face.
That was great. I mean, the flipping pile driver by Pentagon is what popped me. That was just...
the Panama Sunrise.
Yeah.
He stole Adam Cole's finisher.
And you know what? I mean, I don't think Adam Cole will mind.
Well,
Adam
even
Cole's
if he did, he's not gonna step to Pentagon and try and tell him not to.
No, because he's too busy trying to get back the ROH World Championship. Like I said, I'll be hearing about that for another year.
Yeah, and plus he just came off of a pretty bad arm injury last year. I don't think he wants another one.
Certainly not. I mean, I love Adam Cole, but I also love the idea of him, living and being healthy.
Yeah.
So Pentagon, yeah, that was great. And really, though, we didn't get a definitive conclusion because somebody really wanted to watch the match up close and personal, Ashton.
Dude, Mill comes up. He was at the top of the steps, and I was just like, oh man. Like, I was thinking what you just said. He wanted like a first row seat to this. But then he comes down the steps, rips off his sling, and gets in the ring and just starts taking it to Pentagon. Gets rid of him, hits a spear on Puma, spear on Pentagon, double flatliner, and he has reasserted his dominance over the temple.
And see, I am so okay with this non-finish because to me, it makes perfect sense because you have Mill, right, who, I mean, this is the Temple of Death now. Death runs it. They created the throne for Mill. They're riding high on the hog, thinking, oh, what can go wrong? We have all the power. First episode, gets his arm broken. Now you think this is episode 6, right, Ashton?
Yeah, so it's been about 5 weeks.
5 weeks. Over a month, then. 5 weeks. Mill has had to sit there on the throne because the throne's supposed to symbolize that he's the king. but he's wounded. So he's sitting in a place of prominence, but he's wounded. I mean, the humiliation that he must have been feeling and building up, I feel like all of that humiliation got exhibited with brute force on Pentagon and Puma tonight. I thought
you know
it was
what though, dude?
brilliantly
Let's
done.
give some credit to Catrina too, because she did an amazing job of stalling while he healed up so that he could be healthy enough to take on new challengers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, she kept all those worthwhile contenders at bay.
Yep.
And you know what? You and I were even,
she basically kept them fighting each other is what it comes down to.
exactly, you know, and you and I were even talking before recording, and even with Aztec Warfare in 3 weeks being only for the number one contendership, I love that whether number one contendership or the title, and you give Mill, you know, the privilege of coming out last, which was your theory when we thought it was for the championship, that the heel actions are logically consistent. And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep saying it, because as long as WWE keeps doing stupid decisions like putting their biggest babyface threat in a triple threat to go to WrestleMania like they did with Roman Reigns at Fastlane, it's worth illuminating these points. The heels are always controlling the cards here at the Temple. Catrina isn't letting anybody get close if she doesn't feel like Mill has a shot. And now when she knew that Mill had a shot and he could take care of business, she kind of, you know, planted the seed, said, no, I'm not going to give you what you want. You need to blow off steam. Mill found a way to blow off steam, and this is the end result. Just two bodies just piled in that ring, Pentagon and Puma. Great stuff, dude. I freaking love this.
Yeah, this was great, but then even better was after the match was over, we went to commercial, and when we came back, we saw Mill and Catrina walking through a hallway backstage, and Catrina said all you needed was a little motivation, and I didn't exactly catch her say it explicitly. From what I understand, though, we're getting Mill versus Pentagon versus Puma, possibly even for the title, next week.
See, now, I just got done saying about logically consistent heel actions. I'm not sure how I feel about the belt being on the line, if that is the case. But I guess the rationale you could use is, well, Mill's 100% and he's angry, and look at what he just did to two guys. Yeah. Maybe but Catrina isn't really perceiving it as much of a threat after the way he really is.
Yeah, I think it's an ego thing. Catrina is so confident in this monster that just got a spark lit under him that she thinks that he's gonna handle himself in that.
And you know what? It's probably not just an ego thing, but I may be looking too much into it here, but it may also be a strategic thing. I mean, she may be thinking, okay, we have a chance to take out two of our biggest threats in one time, just in one go, beating two contenders, thinning the pool. And then she's probably thinking, because if I hold back any more on him not doing any title defenses, it's going to get even uglier. The resistance is going to get more violent, people are going to get more vocal, and that's going to make our power, by consequence, less legitimate. So I've got to have him defend the championship, not because of any stupid 30-day rule, but because it's in the best interest of our dominance, and it's in the best interest of our power that we've established here at this temple. So if it is for the title, I can forgive it for those reasons. I think you just got to look at their actions and motivations. Yeah.
I'm calling my shot a week ahead of time. I am calling it right now. I don't think Mill's arm is healed completely, and because of that, I think Pentagon Jr. is going to be our new Lucha Underground champion next week.
No shit. You're picking Pentagon.
I think he's going to break Mill's arm, and I don't know if he's going to get him to tap out, or if he's going to get him to quit, or if he's just going to have to pin him, but I think that arm isn't healed yet. I know that Mill is this monster, and you would think maybe he has supernatural healing abilities, but the last time Pentagon broke people's arms, it took them over 2 months to heal, and he still had the sling coming into this show, and he tore it off out of anger, and all of the damage that he was doing to people, he didn't get attacked. Nobody tried to hurt him. Well, they tried to, but he didn't let anybody get to hurt him. I think that next week's match is going to kind of expose that his arm isn't as healed as he thinks it is.
You know, I will say, I think it would be a smart move if you wanted to end Muertes' reign to do it with Pentagon, because Puma already has a fluky victory over Pentagon, and then they had the non-finish, so it would keep Puma in the conversation. And then you could just transition to that, and then you could have Muertes and Catrina, because maybe, and here's the thing too, we were just talking about Cuerno a few segments earlier, maybe Mill won't even have the chance to gain the championship back, because Catrina will say, listen, I need you, I need my monster for more pressing issues, because the Cuernos are back with Black Lotus in tow, we've got to defend our stronghold on this temple. So the way I see it, I'm not saying I'm buying in to Pentagon winning, so I don't conflate this, guys, with me
I'm
co-signing
just
with
saying,
Ashton.
dude, the only reason I am picking Pentagon is because of Mill's arm.
And I agree, and here's my thing. I think it can also work in your favor with you picking Pentagon because of the narrative. Because if the Cuetos aren't far behind, it would make sense to want to free up Muertes from the world title picture so we can focus on the bigger storyline of control of the temple and just this whole mythology going on. So I think there's a lot of credence in your favor, like a lot of credibility to your prediction. Me, I think I'm going to be more conservative. I think Mill's going to retain right now. I don't think it's his time to drop it. I don't. I think they're going to find a way to win. But yeah, I definitely think it's either going to be Muertes or Pentagon. Honestly, I don't even really see Puma as a factor, as sad as that is, with how good that he is and how legitimate he is. It's funny that I'm not even really considering him. But if he does gain back the world title at all this season, I don't think it'll be until much later, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, triple threat should be very interesting. And hopefully it is for the title, because we've done all this talk like the title's going to change hands. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be for the title, to be fair.
I do have confirmation that it is for the title.
Okay, you got confirmation. Excellent. All right, so wow, next week is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Shit, man. All right, well, you got Pentagon in a shocker in my mind. Well, somewhat. I think we kind of rationalized a little bit with our subsequent discussion, and I'm staying conservative in my prediction. I'm not going to go out there. I'm going to say Mil Muertes retains.
Okay, I dig it. Let's talk about, well, we already did talk about Aztec Warfare. Is there anything else regarding Aztec Warfare you wanted to talk about?
No.
Do you think we're going to get, do you think that Marty's sister is going to debut between now and then or during the match?
I think she will debut between now and then, because we're talking 3 weeks. Yeah, she'll definitely debut before then, I think.
All right, I hope you're right. I'm so looking forward to seeing her.
Yeah, definitely.
So we see now Mil resume as his role on the throne. He kind of makes his way back up there and has his seat again, and it looks just super badass. I love it. But this is just so that he's in place for the big match that we have next, the Gift of the Gods ladder match between Fenix and Cuerno. And this match, I've said it during live reactions, I'll say it again, this was the best match that we've seen in Season 2 so far, and I don't honestly think anything even comes close.
Exactly, and this is only episode 6.
Right.
Like, we've still got, because I believe this is a 26-episode season, we've still got 20 episodes left.
Let me put it this way, if I wasn't a New Japan fan, this would be my match of the year so far, but because New Japan just has ridiculous matches at, like, every show.
Right.
Know what I mean? So yeah, this is the best match that I've seen so far this year that wasn't New Japan.
Hey, Lucha Underground still has time to clinch it, though. They got our match of the year last year for both of us, even though there were 2 different picks.
Yep.
Same company, so Lucha Underground,
both
you still have time.
Mil, which we were talking about on live reactions.
Yeah, Mil, man. And really that kind of illuminated my eyes into thinking, I'm sure probably more of the casual fans that don't really like digging into the mythos and maybe are just there for the Lucha Libre, they may think like Fenix or Prince Puma, they're the best. I actually think Mil may probably be underrated in some circles, which is really telling because the guy is just so freaking good. Just like this ladder match was so freaking good.
It was.
Holy
way to bring it full
crap.
circle, brother.
Dude, what I loved about this, and I even made a mention of it in live reactions, both of these guys, I think, had 2 different psychologies kind of going into this ladder match. Like, Cuerno, he really approached it like you think a hunter would a new territory. He was figuring it out. He was manipulating the ladders. And really, for him, it ultimately came down to, I'm going to punish Fenix. I'm going to just incapacitate him completely. Just no movement whatsoever. Then I'm going to scale. Then I'm going to get the championship. But what I loved about this match was that it volleyed back and forth so much.
Yeah.
I feel like there were very few moments. There were moments, but they were very few where either one guy or the other was legitimately, like, completely in control. Just great back and forth from beginning to end. I thought the spots were crazy. I love that they just fought everywhere. My moment of the match, personally, had to be when Cuerno got knocked to the floor, Fenix was on the platform, and Fenix just does, I think it looked like a senton to me, off the platform, over the ladder, onto Cuerno perfectly. I even said it on live reactions. If this was the Olympics and I was a judge with a scorecard, Fenix would have gotten a perfect 10 for me easily. He would have pulled a Ty Dillinger, more or less. Guy was unfreaking real with that dive. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, that was exceptional.
What were some of your favorite spots? Do you have any outside of that? Like, were any really stuck out to you?
My favorite spot of the match was when they were fighting in the crowd, in the stands, and Cuerno was standing up like he was getting ready to do something to Fenix, and Fenix just pushes him. Or no, it was flipped. Phoenix was standing up on the rail like he was getting ready to do something to Cuerno. Cuerno just pushes him. Phoenix lands on the ladder.
That looked brutal. In fact, I'll be honest, when that first happened, that was one of those spots where I thought, ooh, could Phoenix be legitimately hurt, like sustain an injury? Because that looked nasty to me when he took that fall. Yet this match was great. Oh, another great moment, because I don't think I expected this from him. Again, when you're talking about jockeying for position, getting control, there was an Irish whip spot. Phoenix tried Irish whipping, and, he thought he had to Cuerno, but then Cuerno steps up the ladder, goes off the ladder, and gets a lariat on Phoenix using his momentum.
That was
just
great.
A beautiful sequence. Just the fluidity of it was perfection.
Yeah.
And then, we kind of learn a lesson here about not going for things that really haven't been too kind to you because, in the really crucial moment of the match, Cuerno...
This was another one of my favorite spots, too.
Yeah. Cuerno goes for a table, and it looks like he's going to do like what we would call a super or an avalanche throw of the hunt, off the top rope through the table. But Phoenix counters it, and he gets one of those impressive-looking Hurricane Ranas, where he balances himself on the rope, and then he does the jump and all that. He gets that on Cuerno through the table, and Cuerno just doesn't move. I mean, that's it. Phoenix scales the ladder. He takes down Gift of the Gods. I gotta say, and you know what? Lucha Underground, I think, embodies with its writing. Sometimes the best swerve is no swerve at all because they've gotten so good at making me second-guess myself or expect the unexpected. I said multiple times on Twitter and in live reactions, I thought Cuerno was going to retain here because I thought that they were going to continue the struggle for Phoenix. And plus, we had never seen, and now we still haven't seen, Cuerno versus Mil Muertes, which I think has become a dream matchup for me in Lucha Underground. But we still haven't seen that matchup. But no, Phoenix is now back with the Gift of the Gods. However, because I was also wrong about the cash-in being next week because we got the triple threat, doesn't mean that the struggle ends for Phoenix. I mean, just a fantasy booking idea, I'm not saying this will happen. You look at Pentagon and Puma, they're in contention, right? I mean, they're facing Mil Muertes. What if Johnny Mundo, after beating Cage, is like, hey, after beating Cage, I think I deserve that championship more than you do, and then we get Phoenix versus Mundo for Gift of the Gods. I don't think Phoenix is going to get to breathe if he can't cash it in right away. So, just a thought.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the Cuerno Mil thing goes, that's a match that I mean, obviously, I'm sure it would be good, but it's not something that I'm super hyped on like you are.
Right.
But the one thing that I will say that I don't know if you knew, Phoenix is the first ever 2-time champion in Lucha Underground. No one has ever held a championship more than once.
That's true. That's very true because Puma was only a one-time world champion. Muertes currently having his reign, and Team Havoc only one-time champions. They have yet to get their rematch, and now the Disciples of Death are current champions. So yeah, Phoenix 2-time Gift of the Gods champion, won it originally at the very first Ultima Lucha to end season 1, lost it to Cuerno as we know, and he regained it tonight. Wow.
Yep.
So yeah,
first ever.
Championship history grows in Lucha Underground. That's crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
This was such a fun main event, dude. This show just so consistently good. And for the record, guys, there was no ending cinematic this week, but I don't even really think it needed one because the imagery
disappointed me. I will say I was disappointed by that, but that didn't make the show any worse. It's not like because we didn't get a cinematic at the end, I'm gonna dock points from the show.
I think it's funny when I hear myself talk about this show, going back and listening to certain parts of our reviews and just hearing myself when we do this live. I think I wouldn't even say forgiving. I just think I'm far more understanding when Lucha Underground doesn't do certain things on a particular episode because they do everything that they do within a given episode so well.
Yeah.
Just so freaking well. It's like if Raw does 75% of their content horribly, or in the case of the Raw that we just got done reviewing, 95% of it horribly, I'd be more angered by absences. I noticed people on Raw until he finally did come out were worried Kevin Owens wasn't going to be on it. And yeah, if this Raw was really that atrocious and Kevin Owens wasn't on it, I probably would have been miffed. Granted, I didn't like how he was used, but that's neither here nor there. With Lucha Underground, when we don't get something, I'm far more understanding, I think, because what we do get, they just hit it out of the park, man, so consistently. It's just like me just being like, okay, you guys didn't want to do that tonight, that's cool, And I just, hopefully the cinematics we get next week will be revealing. I would like updates on Officer Reyes, Cortez Castro. Maybe he checks in with his superior officer.
Oh,
I'd love
yeah.
to. Personally speaking, as a mark and a proud one at that, I'd love a sit-down interview with Taya Valkyrie, getting her thoughts being in the temple and the whole relationship between her and Mundo. Start hyping up what I'm sure will be their presence in Aztec Warfare. I'm already picking them to win. My fan side is anyway. So, stuff like that. But yeah, they just do everything so well that I can't even be like.
Another spot that I loved during the main event was when they both climbed a ladder and they grabbed the structure that the belt was hanging from, and the ladder fell away, and they just were just hanging by it, and then they just dropped.
Yes, I actually had to do a double take because I thought the belt had come down with them, but no, Lucha Underground doesn't do any of that shit. They just both collapsed. They both had to get up on their own will. Yeah, that was crazy. Dude, they went all out in that match. It was fantastic. And again, just reaffirms my point. When you get something like that, when you get the imagery of Fenix on the ladder with his championship over his shoulder, looking at Mill with his championship around his waist, that to me is the end. That's how you punctuate it. I loved it. We know these guys are going to meet again. It's only a matter of time. It's just, what else does Fenix have to stave off in the meantime to get there? That's really the only looming question in my mind.
Yeah. Man, this was a great match on a great show.
Damn right. And with that said, let's move right on to our next segment. High spots and low shots. Real simple. My low shot is King Cuerno, because I think he lost more than anybody tonight. He lost his Gift of the Gods Championship, and by extension, he lost his chance to compete for the Lucha Underground Championship. So, it was an environment that he didn't know. He tried his best to adapt, but Fenix was just too much. He rose again, and he rose all the way to victory. So Cuerno is my low shot.
Yeah. He definitely had a rough week, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I think my low shot is going to be Prince Puma and Pentagon Jr. because they're at each other's throats, man. They're trying to get at each other. And actually, this is my honorary low shot. I guess I forgot to say that at first. My honorary low shot goes to Puma and Pentagon because they're trying to get at each other, and they get interrupted by a massive human being that just destroys both of them. And now they have to face him next week. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were so focused on each other that they forgot to worry about Mill.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it is for the championships. That sweetens the pot greatly. But you're right. I mean, all other things considered, it was a rough night for those two. So who's your actual low shot then? Because that was your honorary.
My actual low shot is Sexy Star because she has been through so much over the course of the last 7 or so months. And now the psychological torment that she's gone through is coming back, and it's hurting her career.
Exactly. Yeah, because she lost to Cobra Moon.
Yeah.
Which I'll transition right into my high spot. My high spot is Marty the Moth, because his presence and successfully distracting Sexy Star proves that while she may have escaped the captivity physically, she has not escaped it mentally. And Marty the Moth, and more importantly, his sister, who remains in the shadows at the moment, still have control, still have dominance over Sexy Star. And if Sexy Star is truly to be free, she's going to have to break that hold. And I find this is a great story, given what we learned about Sexy Star in Season 1. She's been through an emotional trauma like this before, with people being very abusive in what context or another to her. So she was a survivor once. She's going to have to be a survivor again. And tonight just was hard. And in this case, the captor, that being Marty the Moth, he still has control. His sister still has control. And to me, that's a victory, because that goes beyond its weight in gold, brother. So Marty's my high spot.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. I think for my spot though, I've got to go with the man himself, with Mil Muertes, because he was dominant tonight. He might not have necessarily been able to full on intimidate Catrina, but he definitely made a statement when he grabbed her by the throat and lifted her up off the ground for a second time. And he destroyed Puma and Pentagon, which is a huge deal because those guys are both incredibly formidable in their own right. And he was asking at the beginning of the show for a match with the two of them, and Catrina gave it to him. So he got everything that he wanted on this show.
And you know why I love that you went with Mil Muertes as opposed to Fenix? Is I feel like Mil
Phoenix
Muertes
has to get in the ring with Mil now.
Well, I mean, that, but I was also going to say, in a broader sense, you pick the guy that actually has security. Think about it. Mill has the world title, but he also has the backing as world champion. Phoenix's gift of the gods isn't a guarantee. For all we know, we're going to get a cinematic next week where Catrina's like, oh, Phoenix, I was so impressed with your match, but you're going to have to defend that title again. That title is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Phoenix has just temporarily regained it for all we know. The battle now is holding on to it. I like that you went with Mill because we don't have that worry with him. Yes, he does have a triple threat next week against two very legitimate contenders in Pentagon and Puma for the title, but you can't tell me that Death doesn't have a plan. Death always has a plan, so I really like your pick of Mil Muertes. I will happily, affix my signature to that. I thought that was a great pick, and with that said, is there anything else you want to say about tonight's episode?
I'm officially going to predict next week. Obviously, we've got Puma, Mil, and who else? Pentagon. God, I have a mind blank there. I think if we know whether Phoenix has to defend the gift of the gods next week or not, I think you will cash in and end up facing Mill the following week, and then the week after that we have Aztec Warfare. So our next 3 weeks are absolutely loaded if everything goes to plan.
I completely agree. Phoenix is kind of a question mark for me because I think Catrina really wants to make the path just as obstructed as possible for Phoenix, but regardless,
it's like a movie chase scene where the person being chased is just running through an alley, throwing everything they can behind them and like knocking over trash cans and moving boxes in the way and stuff and just doing everything in their power to try and make sure that the person doesn't catch up to them.
Exactly. With that said, those guys, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
Who is going to be our Lucha Underground champion after next week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being more conservative in my temperament. I'm picking Mil Muertes. Ashton is picking the upset in Pentagon. So, are any of you guys picking Puma? Is anybody like, hey, don't leave Puma out in the cold? Somebody pick him. Or
really
maybe you
that
agree
much
with
of
one
an
of us.
upset, though, to pick Pentagon. He is still Pentagon freaking Jr.
That is true. And he's the only guy in that triple threat that doesn't know what it's like to be Lucha Underground champion. That could be extra motivation next week. So yeah, guys, let us know who you're picking. Be sure to take the conversation over to Pweetov. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook, where the Lucha Underground fan base grows by the week. Why? Because it's fabulous. I know our boy Abel, purged Lucha Underground on iTunes recently, and it is on iTunes now. I should probably plug that too. If you guys want to get season 1 and 2 on iTunes and you want to keep up with it, iTunes is the place to be. So go look them up on iTunes. Get after it.
It's $40 for season 1 and then $45 for season 2, but you get every episode of season 2 after it comes out.
Exactly.
You don't have to pay any extra. Like, you just put the $45 down right on the spot, and every time a new episode comes out, you get it just because of the $45 that you put down. Like, you don't have to pay extra for each episode.
Right.
I mean, the alternative is if you want to buy them per episode, it's a lot more expensive. It's $1.99 for SD for standard definition and $2.99 for HD.
Yeah. So, I mean, guys, get after it. However you choose to do it.
Yeah, I know Abel said that he just laid it straight up, just put down the $85 and got both full seasons.
Exactly. So however you guys choose to do it, I know everybody wants to treat their money differently. I'm just letting you guys know that iTunes is a medium now, and Lucha Underground has taken advantage of, so get after it. Also, be sure to like our TWitWoW Facebook page. Be sure to like and share our content and interact there. We also have a TWitWoW subreddit. There you can find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the TWitWoW subreddit can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. However, if you want to get on the ground level with both of us, really interact with us as intimately as possible and see everything going on, you can follow both of us now on Twitter. I am at John_TWitWoW. Ashton is at Apond, that's the letter A, and Pond, the body of water, POND 404. Follow both of us on Twitter. Great content there. And we will see you again for our NXT review, where the man that gravity forgot, Neville, takes on the reigning NXT champion Finn Balor in what I'm sure is going to be an absolute clinic. You will get all of your best coverage of NXT here at TWitWoW when the show is over. And until then, guys, tune in and peace out.